Hello and welcome back to the Stronger Than Steel podcast. My name is John Kieran. Joining me in person today to do this special edition, episode 22 of season 1 is Austin Davidson.
Heyo.
We are going to be looking at the Steelers and Chiefs divisional round playoff game on Sunday. That game time has been changed to 8:20 p.m. as opposed to the 1 o'clock start that it was supposed to be. Let's take a quick look at the injury report. You want to cover the Steelers injury report, and I'll grab the Chiefs one?
Sounds good. Le'Veon Bell, he did not participate on Wednesday, but Mike Tomlin specified that he got a few bruises, and that was it. And he was full participation the rest. Anthony Chickillo has been ruled out. Sean Davis was a full participant on Thursday and Friday, but Dupree is good to go. He's full participant on Friday. Ladarius Green has been ruled doubtful. Robert Golden has been a full participant all week. Ricardo Matthews is questionable. Roethlisberger was taken off the injury report on Friday. He was full participant Thursday and Friday. Fitzgerald Toussaint is still in the concussion protocol, I believe. He might have left today. He is questionable for the game. Stephon Tuitt was full on Thursday and Friday, and Vince Williams was full on Thursday and Friday. How about the Chiefs?
They have a pretty short injury report this week. You have their safety, Eric Berry, was a full participant all week with an Achilles injury. Tom Bahali is questionable after not practicing on Friday. He's got a knee injury. And Justin Houston is questionable with a knee injury. He was limited on Wednesday and Friday, full on Thursday. Spencer Ware has a rib injury, but he's also expected to play. He was a full participant all week. So a few key storylines going into this week. We talked about it at the end of last week, the whole Joey Porter arrest. Has this been a distraction for this team, Austin?
No, I don't think so. A bunch of players already said it isn't going to be, and besides, he's already back coaching. There should be no lasting effect. What do you think?
Yeah, well, going off of what you said, he's been reinstated and several of the charges were dropped, so I think he's only facing, public drunkenness. Mm-hmm. So based on what the players were already saying and the way that things seem to be unfolding, it shouldn't seem to be a problem beyond this point. So now going to the actual game, we've got the probably the important question of, do you think the Steelers can finally put together a complete game on the road? Because this is the most important time for them to do it.
Sure. I think there's a time, as you said, the time for to do it. The Steelers do well here. It's just, it almost doesn't make sense, seeing as Arrowhead Stadium is one of the loudest, but the Chiefs aren't as good statistically as people would think. I think the Steelers could do it here. What do you think?
I'm in complete agreement with you. I was really shocked to see the Chiefs' stats specifically on defense. When I think of them, I think of a strong defensive team, but they've been in the bottom half of the league in nearly every category this year. So as far as advantages go, yeah, you want to talk about the Chiefs' home field advantage, but I don't think crowd noise is as big of a deal as people would seem to make it. I think that when you've been practicing with silent counts on the road every week going into the season, you're kind of used to it by this point. And I think building off of last week's great performance should allow them to continue this week, even if it is on the road. Oh, my apologies here. Moving on to the game preview. What's the Steelers' offense going to have to do this week for them to be successful?
What they're going to have to do, they are going to have to completely get Antonio Brown involved. It's really going to be the killer bees. It's as we do almost every week, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's Le'Veon, Brown, and Ben. How are they going to perform together? So Ben is off the injury report and ready to go. I don't know if the Chiefs have it in them to stop the killer bees together. The Chiefs didn't get the full dosage of Le'Veon Bell the first time, and he's only gotten better, and he still had a great game the first time. It was over 150 scrimmage yards, so that's nothing to be sad about. That was a good game. And but one difference in the first game is that Sammy Coates had a gigantic catch in the first Chiefs game and was the leading receiver, and now he's disappeared. Also, Marcus Wheaton was playing the game and caught a touchdown at a 2-point since he's been placed on IR. However, Eli Rogers and Darius Hayward-Bay have stepped up since Coates and Wheaton have disappeared, and the offensive line has been one of the best Roethlisberger's been around and should continue to keep Chiefs pass rushers in check, as they were shut down most of the first time, only getting 2 sacks, and that was without Ramon Foster, and Marcus Gilbert came out 27 snaps in. So overall, the offense should continue to do well, but not good as last time. The players that didn't play last time against the Chiefs on offense were Eli Rogers, Roosevelt Nix, Ramon Foster, as I said, and Marcus Gilbert came out of the game after 27 snaps, as I said. And all of these players are huge on offense and didn't fully get to play the first time. What's the offense looking like for you this week?
Austin, this game is actually reminding me a lot of last week's game in that because of the statistical performance for the Chiefs over the past, over the entire season, I'm thinking that the Steelers are going to be able to do just about whatever they want. Maybe not to the degree that they did last week, but if you think about the only thing the Steelers are really missing is Ladarius Green, and while they don't have the type of athleticism at the position to make up for his loss, Jesse James has picked up his play a lot over the last few weeks. I think last week may have been his best blocking game of his career, which could really be saying something considering he's played a lot this season. But they know how to play without Ladarius Green in the lineup, as he's only played in 6 games this year, and the Steelers just played their 17th game last week. The Chiefs' defense simply isn't at the level that we're accustomed to seeing them at. Like I said, I was shocked to see how subpar their numbers are. They're in the 20s as far as yards against. They don't really stick out in any statistical category. You even think about their strong pass rush with guys like Tom Bahali, Justin Houston, and their current leading sacker, what's his name?
D Ford.
D Ford. He has 10 sacks, but the whole team has, for a total, 28 sacks, which ranks, oddly enough, 28th in the entire league. I'm expecting the Steelers to try to open this game much like they did in Week 4 with an early deep play action pass to kind of get the Chiefs back on their heels. And outside of that, I expect an early game plan very similar to what we saw last week. An early balanced attack starting off with mostly short and quick passes and quick hitting runs to loosen up the defense, trying to make them to respect the pass a little bit. And once they do that, I think we'll see a lot of Le'Veon Bell again. I don't know if it'll be 10 straight rushes and that kind of mentality, but I think we'll see something similar where you're only concerned with about 4 or 5 players on that defense. Like I said, you're worried about the edge rushers and Marcus Peters on the outside, but I think Ben Roethlisberger, the wily veteran, he knows what he has to do in order to avoid being baited by the young quarterback. Looking onto the other side of the ball, what are you thinking the Steelers are doing this week in game planning for the Chiefs?
This is going to be a good one for the defense. I really believe that this is a better unit than they versus the Chiefs the first time. And the first time, for those who don't remember, the Chiefs got pitched a shutout until the fourth quarter, where the Steelers got a little bit. They kind of just relaxed and they gave up points. It was a little sad, because I would have liked to see this shutout, but still, they were pitching a shutout until like the end of the fourth quarter. The last time the Steelers didn't have Shazier, and you saw the difference he made against Miami the second time around. Also, this was another game where Davis wasn't starting, but neither was Golden. The third-string Jordan Dangerfield was starting over both of them because Golden was inactive and Davis was just not in the lineup yet. He only played one special team snap in that game. So, also, Mike Mitchell wasn't playing like he has the second half of the year. He's really improved since the first half. He's kind of having, like, the season that... I guess I shouldn't make this comparison, but he's kind of having, like, the season Aaron Rodgers is. Aaron Rodgers didn't start off well. He was really doing poorly. People were kind of bagging on him a bit. And then he just turned it around and just started doing well, and that's what Mike Mitchell is doing right now. But the Chiefs are basically versing a completely different defense than they did the first time. A better one than the one that basically shut them down last time, and that's really it. That's the preview for the defense. What do you got?
Let me echo your sentiments on as far as what the defense is doing, as far as how it's different. You think about that first game, Cameron Hayward had 3 of the Steelers' 4 sacks. What did Vince Williams have the other one? Mm-hmm. That was the Steelers. I think that was like the Steelers had 1 sack going into that game. They had practically no pass rush before that game, and that's kind of where things started turning around for the pass rush, at least. This is a game that the Steelers' defense is going to have to play patiently. The Chiefs' offense, that's led by Alex Smith, has been known for years that doesn't make many mistakes, and they rarely turn the ball over. While it's true they don't really have an outstanding rushing attack or really any great weapons to speak outside of Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, but if the Steelers can manage to get an early lead, try to force the Chiefs to abandon their game. They don't play well when they're coming from behind. They don't like to throw the ball deep down the field. I think maybe the Steelers can have a good chance to sort of limit the effect of Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. Speaking of Kelce, he only caught, I think you mentioned it, 5 catches for 23 yards in that Week 4 matchup. I'll get to that matchup a little bit more later, but keeping him jammed at the line of scrimmage is going to be crucial for longer developing pass plays, because if you can shut down the run, which is something I think the Steelers are going to want to do early on, making Alex Smith throw the ball in those long developing plays is something that you can maybe force him into some interceptions, especially when you can keep Kelsey blanketed. It's also interesting to note, I heard this earlier in the week, Alex Smith has never thrown an interception while targeting Travis Kelsey. And the other thing about Alex Smith that a lot of people like to talk about is his mobility. And he's still a mobile quarterback. He's still someone you got to worry about getting to the edge. But something that not a lot of people realize is that he hasn't rushed for nearly as many yards as he's accustomed to. So at that point, I guess I'm trying to say that he's probably not a threat to run on design quarterback runs like we're used to seeing over the last few years. But he can still get out of the pocket, and he can still make big plays if he's allowed to get out of the pocket. So the Steelers, essentially what they have to do is kind of wait for the Chiefs to sort of abandon their game if their offense can manage to score early, and wait for them to try to make mistakes and keep their great players in check. Austin, I know we're both really concerned about it, and I think all of Steeler Nation is too. The special teams seems to be a unit that the Chiefs really have the Steelers outmatched in. Is there any way the Steelers can kind of match them blow for blow in this?
If I want to start off by saying rest in peace to the Steelers special teams. With Fitzgerald Toussaint questionable, we don't really know if he's going to be back with Sammy Coates or not. It could be Justin Gilbert back there, but that's not even the problem at hand. The big problem is trying to stop Tyreek Hill. The dude has been a return threat for the Chiefs ever since the Steelers game, where he technically got his first touchdown, but it got called back because of a penalty on the Chiefs. The man is dangerous, and against special teams, this unit has been below average at best, and they are really going to struggle here against Tyreek Hill. The rest of the special teams should be fine, though, as long as they keep penalties at a minimum. I don't see any reason why Boswell or Barry will struggle here, but I don't think Tyreek Hill gets shut down in the return game. What do you think?
It's weird. The special teams have almost been getting worse as the season's gone on, which is kind of weird. I heard the notion that Mike Tomlin has sort of resigned to the special teams. He's kind of like okay with it being the way it is, at least in the return game, as long as they don't fumble. So that's just about the only positive thing you can say about the return unit. Toussaint is probably, I think he's returned the most kicks this year. He hasn't done a great job. Kobe Hamilton's returned a couple. He hasn't been that good. Sammy Coates has the only, I think, return of more than like 25, 30 yards. So as far as the kick return game, if you get it in the end zone, just take a knee. That's all I have to say about that. The punt returning's been okay, but that's not really something I think we expected to be that great. The kick coverage and punt coverage teams are definitely something I'm worried about. You mentioned it. Tyreek Hill's a game breaker. You really have to be concerned. In the kickoff game, really the only thing you can hope for is that Chris Boswell can boot it out of the end zone. If not, you're going to hope that some squib kicks maybe don't find their way back to him, but I wouldn't be too overly optimistic about that. You just have to make sure that the guys stay in their lanes. It's as simple as that, and it's something I don't know if they can do it based on the way that they let the Dolphins get some big returns last week. And as far as punting goes, just kick it out of bounds every time. Do whatever you can to keep the ball out of Hill's hands. That's where he's most dangerous. It was kind of the old story with Devin Hester. Maybe he's not as dangerous as Devin Hester is. I don't think he is, but if you remember what they always said about him, just kick it away from him. Don't let him get his hands on the ball, because when he did, he scored. And even if you said, he won't score, this time, it's impossible for him to score every time. Well, it felt like he did. And this is a game where the Steelers really can't afford to be giving points away in the special teams game when they know that they're outmatched. So, moving on. So I think that's about it for our preview. What is one key matchup or X factor you have for both the Steelers offense and defense today, Austin?
For offense, I went with Antonio Brown versus Marcus Peters. Antonio Brown will need another big day to keep the offense going, since the leading receiver last time is barely playing offense anymore. Brown will have to be what he normally is, the best receiver on the field. If he gets shut down this game, the Steelers will really struggle on offense. I don't even think he's getting a touchdown, but he just needs to contribute in yards. So that's just it. And for defensive side, I wrote whoever's test with following around Travis Kelsey. Kelsey, as we said, is having an incredible year. This is his first 1,000-yard season, and he leads the Chiefs in receiving yards. if the Steelers want to win this, they'll want to keep him quiet on the day, and if they don't, it's going to be a real struggle. What are your matchups?
Well, before I get to those, let me ask you 2 questions. What would you rather take for an Antonio Brown stat line? Would you rather have 5 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown, or 9 catches for 112 yards and no touchdowns?
I want the yards. I
want the yards?
I want the 112 yards.
Okay.
I think Le'Veon Bell could punch it in.
And then what about the on the other side, you got Kelsey. Say he gets 8 for 100 yards and no touchdowns, or would you oppose that to maybe 4 catches for 40 yards, but he gets a touchdown too?
I'm gonna go with the 4 catches for the 40 yards and a touchdown because I feel like it's unavailable to shut down a team, so someone's gonna get a touchdown eventually. So I'd rather him just not keep letting them get down the field.
I can see. I can appreciate what you're saying. Usually, I'd go with the opposite just because of the scoring, but I can appreciate that with the way the Chiefs' offense works. For me, on offense, it's I'm going with what you had last week. It's Marcus Gilbert and Alejandro Villanueva, the Steelers' outside offensive tackles, against the trio of edge rushers that the Kansas City Chiefs have. I think this is going to be the difference between the Steelers' offense putting up 20 points or 30 points. Ben Roethlisberger was only sacked 17 times this season. I think that's the lowest total of his career for a season in which he's played more than 12 games. Rarely was he being put in a position where he was under pressure most of the game. The only game I can really think about going back to this year where he was under consistent pressure was probably that Eagles game back in week 3. Oh, yeah. Don't you think?
Yeah, that's the only one I can remember.
But even with the lackluster sack numbers like the Chiefs had, I said they were 28th in the league with 28 of their own. The Chiefs have a lot of them from 3 capable edge rushers. Everyone knows about Justin Houston and Tamba Hali, and even though they're both hobbled, you've got D Ford, a guy who had 10 sacks this year replacing Houston and at times Hali. We already know that Justin Gilbert's probably one of the more underappreciated right tackles in the league. His ability as a pass blocker has been really good over the last couple seasons. And Alejandro Villanueva played a pretty good game last week, but if there's a question mark on the offensive line, it is him. I think you know what you're getting with everybody else, but he's kind of a wild card. So I think you're going to see a lot of tight ends lined up on that side. You're going to see a lot of chip plays with running backs, and you're going to see a lot of misdirection plays to try to get those guys back on their heels, try to tire them out, make them run to the play. And if you can do that, maybe you can that can help your offensive linemen win the battle. I think they could be the difference in getting to Ben Roethlisberger, maybe forcing a couple turnovers or a few negative plays that maybe take the Steelers out of scoring range or something like that. On the other side of the ball, I had Justin Gilbert and Sean Davis, or whomever will be pressing Travis Kelce. I fully suspect the Steelers are going to try to do what they did so well in Week 4, and that is having one man come up to the line of scrimmage and press Travis Kelce at the line of scrimmage, not allowing him to get a free release on his route because everyone knows that that's Alex Smith's favorite target. As the main and most trusted weapon for the Chiefs, keeping him tied up at the line of scrimmage allows the Steelers rushers to get time to get after Alex Smith while he's trying to look for his number 1 target, which is the Steelers are hoping will still be at the line of scrimmage. And Justin Gilbert did a very good job, as evidenced by Kelce's poor stat line. I'd assume that he gets that job again, but I was thinking if he doesn't, my guess would be Sean Davis is tasked with that. And then if he doesn't, I really don't know who else it would be. But I agree with you that it's going to be whoever is the guy that's going after Kelce in this game. You have a key on offense and defense for the Steelers as far as how they're going to win this game?
Offensively, they can't commit a lot of turnovers. I mean, that's a pretty simple one, of course. You lose if you commit a lot of turnovers. But Big Ben has been forcing a lot of throws recently, and it's caused him to throw several interceptions in games, and he can't allow that to happen. It's better to take a punt or to take 3 and keep them back than allow them to get good field position right off the bat. And it just seems like Roethlisberger's putting a lot of balls right where a defender could get it. I believe I saw a stat where I was going over quarterbacks who've thrown the most interceptable passes, and Ben has been leading since week 10, or it's been a while, and he took a big lead. On the defense side, it's not letting Tyreek Hill burn whatever defensive back he's put against. Shutting him down is going to be a major key to winning this game. What do you got?
Just a question. Do you think the Steelers are going to try to put a safety on the defensive back who's covering him, or do you think they're going to have Mitchell try to, I'm assuming it's going to be Mitchell or Davis working on the middle with Kelce? If you had to pick one, who would you rather take away, I guess, is my...
Kelsey.
Kelsey?
I'd rather take away Kelsey.
Yeah, because I think a lot of Hill's production comes from special teams, too. Not that he can't produce on offense, but I think that offense runs through what Travis Kelsey does. As far as my keys to the game, on offense for the Steelers, it's attack the Chiefs with a mix of balanced plays with runs and passes, like I've been saying all day. Keep the Chiefs guessing. As long as the Chiefs' edge rushers are they don't know what's going on, you keep them neutralized and make sure Marcus Peters isn't making any big plays. The Steelers, I think there's no reason they shouldn't be able to score 4 offensive touchdowns. I really don't see the Chiefs being able to stop the Steelers or even slow them down enough to the point where they aren't effective or they aren't putting up a decent amount of points. On the other side of the ball, it's probably the most cliche thing for a team like the Chiefs, but it's shut down the run and try to let Alex Smith beat you. There are a few times that Alex Smith has gone toe-to-toe with some great quarterbacks like he did with Drew Brees in the playoffs 5 years ago, but if you can shut down the ground game, you look out for guys like Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelsey. Don't let Alex Smith extend the play and then find those guys on third downs that'll extend long drives that'll tire out the Steelers defense. I think those are the main guys you got to worry about. Yeah, you remember Jeremy Maclin is there, and Spencer Ware really ran well at times this season, but he kind of tapered off towards the end of the year. And as we all know, the Chiefs have never been predicated on the big play, and they're not really readily equipped to match the Steelers blow for blow in a track meet. The weather conditions and home field favor a low-scoring game for the Chiefs. I still think the Steelers can dictate the pace of this game, and I think that ultimately the Steelers have enough on offense to just kind of take over, at least on the offensive side. That's what I had to say for that. And then moving on to our bold predictions for this game. Austin, tell me yours.
My first one is a bad one on the Steelers' part. I think Tyreek Hill gets a punt return touchdown or a kickoff return touchdown. It's bound to happen. My second one is Antonio Brown goes for 100 yards, but no touchdown. Third one is Le'Veon Bell scores 2 touchdowns and musters up 150 scrimmage yards again, or more than that. And my fourth one and final one is Steelers get 4 sacks on the day, 1.5 coming from Bud Dupree.
Question: how many of those Le'Veon Bell scrimmage yards are on the ground?
I'm gonna give a lot to the pass game. I'm gonna say he only gets 90 on the ground.
How many? I guess what's the balance? Do you think the Steelers are going to throw the ball a lot more in this game, or do you think they're going to kind of go to the ground?
I think they're going to attack the Chiefs secondary. It's a young secondary with only like Marcus Peters, and we were discussing this. Marcus Peters is a good cornerback, but Marcus Peters is also he's a cornerback that you test because he will get beaten on like half of the routes run against him, but also on the other half he'll get an interception. So that's really how I see it.
You know, I'm sorry, I didn't even mention this. I didn't mean to disrespect him, but Eric Berry is actually probably the guy I'm most worried about in that secondary. We all know about Marcus Peters' ability to snag the ball out of the air, but Eric Berry is really a good playmaker. He's a guy that plays with a lot of heart. So my bold predictions are as follows. I think the Chiefs are going to shut down the ground game. The Steelers are going to shut down the ground game for the Chiefs. I don't think Spencer Ware is going to have an easy day at all, just managing 50 rushing yards as Alex Smith ends up being forced to throw the ball a lot when they fall behind early in this game. I think Smith is going to throw for 2 touchdowns, but he's also going to throw 2 interceptions as he tries to rally the Chiefs back into the game. I think those interceptions are going to go to Ryan Shazier because the inside linebackers have had a lot of interceptions lately. And this just feels like a kind of game that Mike Mitchell is going to get one, I think. Alex Smith doesn't have that arm strength, and I think that's going to be a prime time for Mike Mitchell to get one. I think he gets sacked 3 times. The Steelers continue their good pass rush. I think we get another one from James Harrison. I think he got one for each of the inside linebackers, too. Going back to Alex Smith, I think both of his touchdowns are going to go to Travis Kelsey. I just think if the Chiefs get down there, why not just throw it up to that big man? He's played really well this year, and I think Tyreek Hill gets limited on the offensive side, but I think he has a big return in this game. I don't know if he'll get touchdowns, but I think he's got at least a 30-yard punt return for him, and I definitely see a 40-yard kickoff return. That's the way I see it. On this other side of the ball, I think Ben Roethlisberger plays probably his most complete game on the road this season. I think he'll crack 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, spreading the ball around to Brown, Bell, and a deep ball to Darius Hayward-Bay that are going to be the 3 touchdowns. I got Le'Veon Bell going for another 100-yard rushing performance, finishing with 120, and tacks on another 25 through the air in addition to the touchdown on the ground and through the air. And I have Antonio Brown going for 10 for 125 in that touchdown. So, Austin, moving on. The final score, what's yours?
It's going to be a really close one. I have the Steelers winning by 1 point, 24-23. It's going to be a really close.
Is it going to be a close field goal at the end? Is it going to be the Chiefs coming back and making it close? What's it going to be? Is it going to be like a goal line stand? What's it going to be?
I think that I feel like it's going to be fourth quarter, right? With only 7 minutes left, we'll say. The Chiefs are going to be down. They're going to have 16 points. That's just how they made it. And then that's when Tyreek Hill gets his punt return touchdown. He gets it immediately, and it puts it really close. And the Steelers are up 20, are down at that point. I'll say, and let's see.
The late drive by Roethlisberger. Yeah, you think he can put it together?
Yeah, one last late drive by Roethlisberger gets a touchdown to end it for them.
I think the Steelers are also going to win this game. If you'd have asked me 2 days ago, I actually might have said the opposite. But after looking at the Chiefs' defensive stats, like I've been pounding all podcast long, I just really think that the Chiefs don't have enough to slow down the Steelers' offense, even when it's in Kansas City with the weather conditions being what they're going to be. I think the Steelers get out to an early lead. I think they score a couple early touchdowns. The Chiefs managed to get a touchdown. I think it's going to be something like 14-10 or 17-10 at halftime. But I think the Steelers score again in the third quarter, and the Chiefs are able to score a couple times in the fourth quarter. But the Steelers just have too much going for them on offense. I think Le'Veon Bell is just a man on a mission right now, and I think the Steelers are going to be able to score 28 points, and I don't think the Chiefs score more than 24 this week. So I have a 28-20 final score. So that'll wrap things up for the Steelers game. So we had 1 point that we wanted to get to. Some recent news in the NFL. The San Diego Chargers have been announced as they're going to be moving to Los Angeles, I think effective immediately, if I'm not mistaken. They'll be playing 2 years in the LA Galaxy Stadium, I believe. That's only a 30,000-seat stadium. That's really bizarre before they move to share the Coliseum with the Rams. And breaking news this morning, the Raiders are considering moving to Las Vegas, which we've all known, but now it's official. They're going to vote on it in the spring. What are your opinions about each specific franchise, Austin?
All right, so I'll start with the Raiders move because I like that a little bit better. I'm still not fully... I don't like the idea of Raiders leaving Oakland. I feel like those fans are loyal and they didn't really deserve to lose their team like that. There was no reason. But, I mean, I still like it because they're going to a city that doesn't have a football team currently or never has. It's just... I like that better. And then with the Chargers, I really, really hate that move because, first of all, I don't like the fact that it's like the NBA where there's two teams in LA. It's just, there's 3,000 cities in the United States, and me and John were discussing, it's like, there are so many cities that could get one, like Portland and or Salt Lake City. Or I honestly thought the Chargers could have went to Las Vegas. I thought the name, the Chargers, fit really well with Las Vegas, which is the city of lights. It's just, it's what it looks like, and I thought the Las Vegas Chargers would have fit. Now, obviously, with the Raiders filing for Las Vegas, I wouldn't want them to move, but I just hate the move. And then when they go to play the Raiders at that stadium, it's going to be all Raiders fans, and it's only 30,000 seats. It's not going to look like a home game, just like it was in San Diego, but now it's going to be worse. I just don't like the moves on either part, really. I like the Raiders a bit more, but still, what do you think?
I like the idea of a team moving to Las Vegas before a second team goes to LA. The NFL did this before, believe it or not. The Rams were there back in the 70s and 80s and the early part of the 90s, too. And the Raiders were there, too. The Raiders moved from Oakland to Los Angeles, and both of them ended up leaving. There's good reasons for that. And the Rams didn't have great attendance numbers this year. And, you know, say what you will about the team, it definitely wasn't an exciting team to watch by any stretch of the imagination. I can understand why they're considering moving the Raiders because they haven't had any orders for a new stadium yet. And that's obviously important given how their stadium is the only multi-purpose stadium left in the NFL. that meaning that they have a baseball stadium and football stadium there too. But there's something to be said for the black hole that is the Oakland Raiders fans. They're some of the best in all of football, and you have to think that they really aren't going to be happy with losing their Raiders for a second time. I, for one, hope they stay in Oakland, and as far as the Chargers go, it's been as bad as their logo is indicated. They've changed their logo 2 times in the last 3 days, or 3 times in the last 2 days. It's been as ugly can get for that franchise. They didn't have a big fan base in San Diego. It makes no sense that they're moving to LA to play in the Galaxy Stadium for 2 years. A 30,000-seat stadium? Are you kidding? Is that just so their attendance percentage is better? I mean, what possible purpose could it serve for them? Why can't they share it with the Rams this year? Like, I mean, maybe there's something about, like, not having enough space, but at the same time, if that's the case, why are they there in the first place? They should be anywhere else. I'd rather them be in San Diego again. I think they would have been better served moving just about anywhere else. I don't know what to say as far as how the fan base goes. I think you're absolutely right. They didn't have a large fan base to begin with, and now they're going to be probably taken over by the Raiders and Rams too. I think there's going to be a bigger fan base for the Rams than there is the Chargers. If you're the owner of the Chargers, if you're a fan of them, I don't really know what's going to happen. I mean, it's definitely something that it's good to keep an eye on, but as far as the relocation news goes, I'm not too happy with it. So that's all I have to say on the matter. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we wrap things up today?
Yeah, it's just questionable that they're playing at the Galaxy Stadium. Quote me if I'm wrong, but I believe when the Vikings were getting their new stadium built, right, they played at a college stadium. And I'm not very good with college football, but I do know that UCLA has been a really big college football contender in the years, and I have to imagine their stadium is pretty big for college football fans.
I remember it was the University of... what was it? The University of it was the University of Minnesota Stadium. I think it was still like 55,000. So yeah, it wasn't huge. So at the same time, they were still getting a decent amount of people in the door. I think the NFL is just worried about they're in LA, but they're getting such low attendance numbers. But I really don't know what they're thinking as far as that goes. But you're right. They probably could. UCLA plays at the Rose Bowl, but that's just a debate for another time. You know, we really don't know what they're doing, but it's something I'm not going to worry about until the offseason, I guess. Let's focus more on what we got going on today. As a matter of fact, kickoff between I believe it's the Seahawks at Falcons is in just over an hour, so we're going to be looking forward to watching a bit of that. I know you have work, but we're getting a little bit closer to Steelers football, and it's going to be a primetime game now, too, so we're looking forward to that. So, Austin, are you all set for today?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, if you want to check us out on Twitter and Facebook, see our updates, our handles are STS Podcast 1. If you have any questions about the show, want to email us, give us feedback, we'd appreciate it. Our email is strongerthansteelpodcast@gmail.com. You want to check out our episodes, we post them on SoundCloud and YouTube under the name Stronger Than Steel Podcast. We have our full library on YouTube and our newest episodes on SoundCloud. We appreciate all the support and wanted to thank you all for joining us today. Austin, you have a great day. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's always a pleasure. And go Steelers.
Woo!